Ferrari launched their most advanced car ever, and minutes later, something unexpected happened. No official warning, no explanation from the pit wall, just Hamilton silently rolling back into the garage, early, unscheduled, and never returning to the track. The team called it routine. But insiders say that's not what it looked like from the pit lane. And the fans who camped out at Fiorano for hours, they saw the car stop, they saw the red flag raised, and they saw the mechanics scrambling behind closed shutters. What happened in that moment wasn't just strange. It was the kind of controlled silence that Ferrari only uses when something big doesn't go to plan. And if what engineers are saying is true, then this wasn't an accident. It was a warning. Ferrari knew this was going to be one of the most watched private tests in recent memory. The SF-26 wasn't just any car. It was the first glimpse of their full 2026 concept. Lighter, more electric, and built around an entirely new power balance. Exactly the kind of change that demands a clean debut. So when the car rolled out at Fiorano, the messaging was already in place. Controlled, polished, precise. A few elegant shots of Hamilton walking toward the car. Leclerc stepping into the garage. Team members smiling in the background. It was choreography, not documentation. Then, the official press release. Just over 100 words. It confirmed both drivers completed installation laps, mentioned the excitement of having Hamilton in red, and praised the atmosphere inside the team. But for something so historic, the start of a new chapter for Ferrari, the dawn of a hybrid reset, the debut of a legend, there was something missing. Details. There were no quotes from the drivers, no lap counts, no reference to deployment feedback, cornering behavior, or temperature windows. And for a team that just spent an entire winter developing a brand new hybrid logic, that's not just unusual, it's suspicious. Even more telling was the complete omission of the red flag. Ferrari didn't acknowledge it in any release, didn't include it in any behind-the-scenes footage, and didn't allow media to ask about it during the limited press window. That's not normal, not even for a private test, because when a car stops mid-session and doesn't reappear, you can't call that routine. Unless, of course, you're trying to bury the story before it starts. It wasn't just one moment. It was a sequence. Quiet, unplanned, and very obviously off-script. According to fans positioned near the back straight, Hamilton had just begun a third system lap. Not flat out, not coasting either, but the car looked sharp, balanced, clean out of the corners. Then came the lift, and not a normal one. The engine note didn't drop, it disappeared. No throttle modulation, no reg and buzz, just silence, followed by a slow, smooth coast. No radio call was broadcast, no trackside warning, but within seconds, marshals raised the red flag. The test stopped, and Hamilton was seen guiding the SF-26 into the garage without any engine response, just battery glide. From that point forward, everything changed. The garage shutters closed. The Ferrari crew stayed inside. No screens showed telemetry. And when the session resumed nearly 30 minutes later, Leclerc was in the car, not Hamilton. But even more strange, the new engine mapping. Multiple audio analysts compared early and late laps from the test, and the hybrid deployment sound had shifted. Less aggressive, more conservative, as if something had been dialed down quietly. This wasn't a spin. It wasn't weather. It wasn't a test of emergency procedure. It was a car shutting itself down, and a red flag that no one wanted to admit was ever raised. In modern Formula One, most failures don't come from exploding engines or snapped suspensions. They come from code. And if what insiders are suggesting is true, then the SF-26 didn't break down in Fiorano. It triggered a software safeguard, a shutdown protocol that isn't visible but is built to protect. Hybrid deployment systems in 2026 aren't just more complex. They're more sensitive than anything F1 has ever run. The electrical delivery isn't just assisting the combustion unit. It's replacing a growing part of it, which means one wrong signal, one overheating cell, one misaligned energy peak, even just a spike outside the expected voltage window, can cause the car to shut down instantly. Because this isn't about saving parts anymore. It's about protecting the system's logic. If Ferrari is running an aggressive regeneration redeployment cycle, where energy is harvested rapidly and then dumped back into the rear axle at higher frequencies, then a misfire in timing doesn't look like a dramatic failure. It looks like Fiorano. The car shuts itself down. The driver coasts in, and no one on the outside ever sees what really happened. What makes this even more complex is that Ferrari may not view this as a problem. From an engineering perspective, this kind of shutdown may prove that the system is working, that it's reaching the limits of hybrid aggressiveness without crossing into illegal territory. But there's a catch, because once you hit that line, you don't just need to back off. You need to decide whether the system can ever run at that setting again, without triggering a race day failure. And Ferrari doesn't have many laps left to make that decision. On the surface, this looks like a blip. An early test interruption brushed off as routine. But under the surface, it's far more delicate, because we're not just in a new technical era. We're entering the most tightly regulated hybrid cycle F1 has ever seen. And if Ferrari's system already triggered an internal failsafe, that means they've reached the edge of what the new rules allow before the season even starts. That's not just aggressive engineering. That's a signal. The FIA has spent the last 2 years rewriting how energy can be deployed, recovered, and stored. They're not just regulating power units anymore. They're regulating intelligence, software, timing, maps, logic trees, things the public never sees. So when a car shuts down for reasons no one explains, the real fear isn't mechanical. It's strategic, because if Ferrari found a blind spot in the current oversight, a hybrid behavior that's technically legal but functionally uncatchable, then they could run a system no other team dares to copy, until the FIA steps in and clarifies the rulebook. And by then, the damage is done. Even if Ferrari never gains a performance advantage, they gain time. Time spent gathering data while others are playing it safe. Time with a deployment model no one can protest because no one understands it yet. And that's what makes this moment in Fiorano more dangerous than it looks. Not because the car failed, but because it might have revealed what doesn't count as failure under 2026 regulations. A shutdown with no smoke, no fire, no visible cause, just a system speaking to itself and choosing to go dark. Before Hamilton arrived, Ferrari could run quiet tests. They could break parts in private, experiment, fail, reboot. No one paid much attention to Fiorano in January, but those days are gone. Because the moment Lewis stepped into that SF-26, the team lost all margin for error. Every lap is broadcast, every test day gets dissected, and every delay, no matter how minor, becomes narrative fuel. Hamilton doesn't just bring performance, he brings scrutiny. And in this case, it came faster than anyone expected. The cars shut down on his watch. Not Leclerc's, not a junior's, Hamilton's, which means Ferrari didn't just lose a lap. They lost control of the story. Even without speaking, Hamilton's presence raises questions. Why didn't he return to the track? Was it a decision made by the engineers or by Hamilton himself? What did he say in the debrief? Was he concerned, frustrated, silent? No one knows. But the fact that no one knows is exactly the problem. Because now, Ferrari isn't just racing against Red Bull or Mercedes. They're racing against public perception, against headlines that read into every glance, every delay, every unexplained issue. And that's where the risk multiplies. If this system, this aggressive, data-sensitive deployment model, is still unstable, Hamilton can't hide it. He can't protect it. He can't ignore it. He amplifies it. And if it fails again, under any conditions, it won't be seen as a development hiccup. It will be seen as a red flag Ferrari didn't take seriously because they thought a world champion could keep it quiet. But in 2026, silence is no longer strategy, especially not when Lewis Hamilton is in the room. Right now, Ferrari still has an excuse. They can call it a test. They can say it was planned. They can hide behind secrecy because nothing's gone public yet. But that only works once. Because if this hybrid system stabilizes, if it stops triggering safety cutouts, if it begins to run full simulations at performance pace, then what happened in Fiorano won't matter anymore. It will be too late, because Ferrari won't just have a working deployment system. They'll have the most unpredictable power unit on the grid. One that's already proven it lives on the edge of what the FIA can monitor in real time. And here's the real danger. If that system doesn't shut down again, if it behaves even for one race weekend, then it becomes invisible, unprotestable, untouchable, and devastatingly effective. Ferrari won't need to win on Saturdays. They'll manage Sundays from inside the system, using energy when others can't, defending with bursts no one can trace, and doing it all with legal telemetry. Because remember, if this logic works, it won't look like dominance. It'll look like control. Silent, deliberate, unanswerable. And by the time the FIA or the other teams realize what Ferrari has done, they won't be trying to stop a shutdown anymore. They'll be trying to stop a machine that never needed to fail in the first place. And if that happens, then this wasn't an accident in Fiorano. It was a warning no one listened to.